Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we profile an Islamic scholar of the past that many consider to be a mujaddid. A mujaddid is an Islamic term that refers to a person who is believed to be sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to revive Islam, restore faith among Muslims, and to correct deviations that may have occurred in the practices and interpretations of the religion. The concept is primarily based on a hadith, a saying of the Prophet ﷺ, which suggests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send to the Muslim community someone who will revive its religion at the beginning of every century. This concept can also be described from a sociological perspective. In sociology, we call it the switchman. And the idea is that oftentimes the enunciations of prophetic individuals or prophets of the past take on a totally different direction than the intended meaning. And then there are people within different centuries that come along and kind of set the ideas back on its original intended path. We use the metaphor of the switchman, the train track changer, as used in the sociology of religion. So we think of Usman then Fodio as a mujaddid or a switchman. So Usman then Fodio was a religious teacher, writer, and Islamic reformer, was the founder of the Sokoto Caliphate in West Africa. Born in the later part of 1754 in Gobir, now in modern Nigeria, Dan Fodio was a Fulani and a member of the Qadariya Sufi order. And as with many of those early religious thinkers, especially those outside of Saudi Arabia at the time, and also those in Saudi Arabia, but not as prominent, we find, is the identification with some sort of Sufi order as a form of identity. Dan Fodio belonged to the Qadariya Sufi order. So he's best known for leading a religious and cultural revolution that advocated for purifying Islam by returning the Quran and Hadith as guiding texts. He formed a movement, and this movement began as a preaching tour in the Gobir kingdom, where he criticized the ruling elites for practices he deemed un-Islamic. The tension between Dan Fodio and the Hausa kingdoms eventually led to the Fulani War, also known as the Fulani Jihad, which started in 1804. So the Fulani Jihad resulted in a series of military and political victories for Usama Dan Fodio, culminating in the establishment of the Sokoto Caliphate, one of the most significant empires in Africa during the 19th century. The Caliphate was a confederation of emirates spreading over parts of today's Nigeria, Niger, and Cameroon. Dan Fodio's teachings and writings left a profound impact on Islam in West Africa, and is often revered as a mujaddid, or a renewer of the faith by his followers. So Osama Dan Fodio passed away in 1817, but his legacy endured throughout his writings and the rulership of his descendants in the Sokoto Caliphate, which lasted until it became a part of the British Empire in 1903. His most famous work is often considered to be the Bayan Wujuj al-Hijra, which translates to the explanation of the obligation of migration. This particular text was instrumental in rallying support for his cause, as it outlined the religious duty of his followers to emigrate from the lands of unbelievers and established an Islamic state governed by Sharia law. This particular work, along with others, contributed significantly to his influence and the spread of Islam in West Africa. This work advocates for the necessity of migration, hijrah, from areas controlled by non-Muslim rulers to regions where Muslims can practice their faith freely and govern themselves according to Islamic law. In this text, Fodio argues that living under the rule of non-Muslims can compromise one's faith, iman, and that migration is not only a religious duty, but also a form of jihad or struggle in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This concept was deeply influential in motivating his followers to support his jihad against local Hausa kingdoms, which eventually led to the establishment of the Sokoto Caliphate, a vast Islamic empire that is in what is now known as northern Nigeria. The work of Usman dan Fodio underscores the importance of establishing a society based on Islamic principles and the role of leadership in enforcing Islamic law. It also reflects Usman dan Fodio's broader theological and philosophical views on governance, society, and morality, which were instrumental in shaping the Sokoto Caliphate's administration and legal systems. So I thought I would introduce a bit of Islamic history from West Africa today. If you liked this particular video, if you enjoyed it, please like and please subscribe to my channel so that I can be motivated to set up a few hundred more of these. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.